In today's video, I'd like to review the MozArt hot pressed watercolor pad, which I bought for Inktober this year. Hello and welcome, my name is MadameBerry. I'm an artist and game developer creating art videos here on this YouTube channel. If you enjoy this video and want to see more, make sure you're subscribed. I upload once a month, though I'd like to make that more frequent. You can help me upgrade my studio and make filming easier by heading over to my Patreon and supporting me there for just $1 a month. I have a variety of rewards, from free coloring pages to wallpapers to commissions. I'm also working towards hopefully providing physical rewards if I reach certain milestones. Oh, also, if you're wondering what happened to all of the comments on my previous videos, some back-end YouTube shenanigans happened, so all of the comments left by my account disappeared. I was aware it was going to happen when I was dealing with the back-end stuff. Also, I did change the name of the channel to avoid some confusion between the rest of my social media being MadameBerry and this channel was Doodleberry. So now everything is under MadameBerry, and it's no big deal, but just to let you know in case you're confused. The piece I'm working on in this video is Day 23's Inktober illustration, Muddy. I'll have my supplies linked in the description below. Back to the paper, this hardcover book comes with 50 sheets of 8.5 by 11, 220 GSM hot-pressed watercolor paper. I got it specifically to use for Inktober because I wanted a paper that would be smooth for fine liners and also take ink washes moderately well. So my thoughts will be with that usage in mind, though I've also tried out a few other materials on this paper. This is not a sponsored video, I purchased this pad myself, so all of my opinions are my own. Let's start with the pros. For 50 sheets of paper at $13, this paper is extremely affordable for hot-pressed watercolor paper. Most of the other hot-pressed pads that I've found only have like 20 or so sheets of paper for the price. This is entirely my own personal preference, but I love that it's a signature-bound hardcover book. Personally, I don't buy spiral or paper cover sketchbooks anymore because my own preference is hardcover, and the spiral gets in the way. The signatures also mean that the book lays flat. The texture of the paper is exactly what I wanted. It's smooth enough that my smallest fine liners have no trouble with skipping, but it isn't so smooth that it's slick. It has just enough tooth to make sketching pleasant, while maintaining the crispness of fine liner pens. Ink and watercolor glide beautifully across the paper, and for watercolors that lift, this paper handles that pretty reasonably. If you're not familiar with how watercolor paper is made, it goes through a process called sizing, where a solution is applied to the paper to make the watercolor paints not sink immediately into the paper. This makes the paint sit on the surface of the paper longer so you can control it better. If you've ever tried to use watercolors in a sketchbook or other paper that's not meant for wet media and the paint bleeds into the paper's fibers and then won't budge, it's because of the lack of sizing. Sometimes you'll get a cheaply made watercolor paper that is inadequately sized and the paint seems to bleed into the dry areas of the paper and it won't blend right. This paper isn't perfect, but for a $13 book, it handles wet media fluidly. I haven't consistently used both sides of the paper, but both sides seem to have the same texture, and when I tested the back side of the page, the paint seemed to work the same way as on the front side. So if you're someone who uses both sides of the page, this book should work pretty well for that. So far I've mostly been using inks, but on my test page, watercolors performed well, as did copic markers. With the markers, there was a bit of bleed through to the back side of the page, but it's thick enough paper that it wasn't severe. I would still protect the page behind it just in case, if you're going to use alcohol markers. The paper also seemed to take colored pencil nicely, though I imagine it would quickly become too smooth for layering and blending. This isn't a colored pencil or pastel paper though, so I'm not counting that against the paper since it's not its main marketed use. I think adding detail to a watercolor painting with colored pencil would still perform very well. And the pencil wouldn't skip since the paper has little texture. This is mostly an aesthetic thing, but the fabric cover of this book is beautiful and tactile, and the elastic band is great for keeping the book closed. Now, I really only have one con, which is that the paper is too thin. It's 220 GSM, which is much thinner than any other watercolor paper I have. I only have cold pressed, but all of the pads that I have are at least 300 GSM. It warps pretty significantly, though I haven't tried taping the paper down, so that admittedly might help. But as it stands, I think it's a little bit too thin for a proper watercolor paper. I doubt that it would take heavy washes of water or a lot of blending particularly nicely. One key thing to note about this paper that is neither a pro nor a con, because it kind of depends on your preference, is that there's a perforation mark about ½ an inch into the book. That means while each sheet is 8.5 by 11, the perforation mark makes the workable area about 8.5 by 10.5. This can be a con to somebody who wants to work directly up to or even across the fold, but for me personally, it's a neutral element because I just don't work towards the edge of the paper. If I wanted to remove pages, this would potentially make it easier, but again, it's neutral because I like to keep all of my books intact. Overall, I think the sketchbook is well worth its price, and I would recommend getting it if you're in search of an affordable hot-pressed watercolor paper, as long as you aren't planning on using heavy washes. If you'd like to get one for yourself, there's a link in the description. It is an Amazon affiliate link, so if you're thinking of getting something, going through those links is a great way to support the channel at no extra cost to you. Leave this video a like if you'd like, and let me know in the comments if there are any other art supplies you'd like to see me try or perhaps review. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care!